At that time, the owner of the funeral home was still Henry's father. According to Mary Shaw's will, he turned Mary Shaw's body into a doll and buried it along with the 101 dolls she had made during her lifetime. Since then, there have been continuous murders in the town. The victims died miserably, each one brutally having their tongue torn out. Looking at the photo Henry handed to him, Ashton realized that Ella's death must be related to Mary Shaw. To find answers, he drove to the old theater. Entering the lobby, he found it in ruins. In an old box, he discovered Mary Shaw's handwriting, which recorded the method of creating a perfect doll. Next to it was the report of the missing boy. Seeing the boy's name, Ashton suddenly realized something and hurried home to ask his father what connection their family had with the missing boy. It turned out that the boy was also a member of Ashton's family. After he disappeared, the family unanimously believed it was Mary Shaw's doing. As though they stormed into Mary Shaw's home, subjected her to severe torture, and even cut out her tongue. Ashton was overwhelmed by the realization that all of this was Mary Shaw's revenge. Meanwhile, Henry discovered that the doll had appeared in his home. Just as he was about to bury the doll back in the cemetery, a strange noise came from the basement. He crawled in with a flashlight, completely unaware. Behind him, the doll slowly turned its head. In the dark basement, a withered hand suddenly reached out. The man hurriedly turned around. On the other side, after discovering the truth, Ashton prepared to stop Mary Shaw's revenge. However, just as he stepped out, he was confronted by the sheriff investigating him. As the two were at a standoff, Ashton's stepmother approached and said that the funeral home had called. On the other end of the line was Henry's voice, saying he had found clues in the theater that could stop Mary Shaw. Unaware of any danger, Ashton immediately headed for the theater, with the sheriff following closely behind. To be safe, the sheriff brought his gun. Passing through a deep corridor, they discovered a secret room at the end. The room was filled with materials for making dolls. When the curtain was pulled back, the dusty closet was packed with countless dolls. In the center of the room, there was an object covered with a red cloth. Ashton summoned his courage and pulled the cloth away, revealing a human-made doll with a decaying exterior that was barely recognizable as the missing boy from years ago. At that moment, a doll slowly turned its head, and the other dolls began to move as well. Following their gaze, they saw a clown doll that had mysteriously appeared in the darkness. Ashton demanded to know what Mary Shaw ultimately wanted. Her answer was revenge. Everyone who had harmed her must die, including their descendants. She had targeted Ella because she carried Ashton's bloodline. Just as she finished speaking, ghostly hands suddenly emerged, revealing Mary Shaw's true form. The sheriff immediately fired a shot, turning the clown doll to ashes, but Mary Shaw transferred to another doll. The sheriff kept shooting, and Mary Shaw kept transferring. As the situation grew increasingly dire, Ashton threw an oil lamp into the closet. Flames spread rapidly, and the two men hurriedly fled the house, with Mary Shaw relentlessly pursuing them. As they crossed a suspension bridge, the sheriff accidentally fell and let out a scream. Mary Shaw rushed towards the sound and promptly tore out his tongue. Ashton also fell but managed to cover his mouth in time. The area beneath the theater led directly to a river, and it finally escaped by following the current. However, just as he caught his breath, he remembered that the dolls were Mary Shaw's vessels, and one doll remained unscathed. Ashton hurried to Henry's house, only to find an elderly woman crying over Henry's corpse. The woman told him that his father had taken the doll. Strangely, his father had been bedridden from a stroke. With no time to lose, Ashton drove back home and found the last doll in the living room. Just then, Mary Shaw appeared again. Ashton quickly threw the doll into the fireplace. Amid a piercing scream, Mary Shaw vanished into the darkness. Ashton finally breathed a sigh of relief. At that moment, he saw his father nearby and walked over. When it touched him, his father collapsed. Looking closer, Ashton discovered his father's body was hollow, with the spine replaced by a wooden stick resembling a puppet. In that instant, he realized the truth. His father had been dead for a long time, and it was his stepmother who had been manipulating everything from behind the scenes. The stepmother was not human at all. Ultimately, Mary Shaw completed her revenge. The Ashton family bloodline was extinguished, and everyone was turned into human dolls by Mary Shaw.